Greetings, chair players. This is Jeb Sherrill, and I'd like to welcome you to yet another episode of the Chair System. Today, we are going to add a little bit more into the pattern of the chairs, and you're going to start understanding exactly how this diagonal thing on the guitar works, because everything repeats diagonally, and that is the concept that the whole chair system is kind of based on. You'll notice that these chairs follow this diagonal pattern, and the extra two diatonic notes that we're going to add in on top of all the chairs and underneath all the chairs follow a diagonal pattern as well. In fact, it's a straight diagonal pattern. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, it will look like a bit of a deviation here when it crosses the B string, because of course these are going to be perfectly in line, and then they're going to slide down one fret for the next two, and exactly the same underneath. Here, 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 and then here and here. They will follow the same pattern on every single chair. So in other words, right above the back of the chair, there's going to be one that's a fret up, and then the front seat of the chair, there's going to be one that's two up. And it's that simple. It's like that on every single chair. Now, what you're going to start doing when you look at these is you're going to start seeing more than one pattern. In other words, your base pattern is going to continue to be the chairs, but then you're going to start finding other patterns as a part of it. So, while that's the chair itself, you'll also know that right above is your 7th, right above your 5th is of course going to be your 4th. And this shape, in other words minus that 7th, is going to be what I often refer to as the chair box, which is just this 6-note pattern that tells you the most useful notes within that scale. I say most useful because, for instance, you're going to base most of the chords off these 6 notes, and you're not very often going to use that 7th one. That doesn't mean it's not important, that just means it's used a little differently. So you will start looking at this shape, at these 6 notes as a shape, which again I call the chair box, and then the whole thing, when you add this one in right here, I call it a throne. So you have the chair, you have the chair box, and you have the throne. And the great thing about the throne is that when you look, if you looked at this all up and down the fretboard, you would find that there were no spaces left, because it takes in all the spaces if you add in those bridges. So basically the bridge plus the throne, I guess that's a better way of putting it, the bridge plus the throne is everything. And the bridges are kind of where they overlap. So for instance, this note right here is going to be the top of here. This note is going to be this note. So you'll know that if this note is 2 frets above the front of the chair, which is your 5th, then you know that down here you're going to have the same thing. This is going to be the front of another chair, and this will be the back of another chair. Because all these notes are, of course, going to be identical. In other words, this note and this note are the same as this note and that note. They're actually flipped around, not because they're different, but because this note is the same as this note, so this note is actually the same as the following note. Everything just sort of hops back a string as you go down. Don't worry about that too much right now. By the way, I am going to start trying to put PDFs on all of these. I've been asked that question several times, and yes, I'm going to try and make PDFs for all these diagrams so that you can look at them yourself and not have to look at screenshots on the computer, which should hopefully be helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe. That really is incredibly helpful to me. And just play around once again with these patterns. Just pop up. You're probably, many of you, going to be aware of this note because I've been adding it in on a lot of the videos. Add in this note as well. Start noting the repeats, like this note is going to be the same as that note right there. Now, of course, as we've talked about many times, any note like this is going to be the same. If you take any note and you go diagonally, skipping a string, you automatically have the same note. And that's going to be so helpful to you because in the future, whenever you're playing on any note, you can jump to the next version of that note and play the same thing, because you'll be able to know, okay, here's one chair, here's another chair, here's another chair, because I know that these notes are identical. And that's going to be really helpful. So practice that, practice going up and down, knowing where this shape is. You can also start building more shapes, like for instance, that's going to be another shape, because you're going to have these three right in a row. They're going to be very easy for you to lock in your head, and then you can add one above for your seventh, and then one first, second, third, fourth. There's your fourth, which is the same as this right there. And when you start working that together, you start shrinking the fretboard in your head. You'll automatically see the chair. You'll be able to build the chair off the root and then know what all the notes are around it. And this is what you're slowly doing. What you're really trying to do is understand the whole shape. This is let's call it the scale shape, or the key shape. Let's say key shape. The key shape would be all the notes on the whole fretboard in one key, and this will just be a way of very easily visualizing that entire key shape. Hope that made sense. And I will see you on the next episode.